Guys, today's my last day here in Grindelwald. I'm going to be going to Geneva next. It's going to be about 3.5 hours almost train ride from Grindelwald. Kind of sad to leave this background, but I'm going to have to come back. You noticed in the beginning of this video of day 8 here is the chair was on the ground, and then you can see the rug a little bit. That's been blown out. Yesterday we had a little bit of snow. It melted. It didn't last very long. The winds and the storm was pretty strong here yesterday, and they said today the mountain's going to be closed. I'm kind of glad I got a chance to go to the Crystal restaurant, which is the top peak restaurant of the mountain. Stay tuned. I'll be showing you guys more videos about Geneva and the train ride. I just finished drinking coffee at this street here in Grindelwald up in the Swiss Alps. I'm going to show you the background right now. It is a little bit cloudy day. It's raining. You can hardly see the mountains. Out of all the Switzerland so far, don't tell anybody. Grindelwald is probably one of my favorite places because it's so peaceful. And the people here at this coffee shop, they were really helpful. I had some questions about some coffees that I wanted to get. I personally don't drink a lot of coffee, but I wanted to ask them some questions, and they were really helpful and really friendly. So far, I'm finding out Swiss people, they're really kind and helpful. I got on the train. I'm going from Interlaken House to Bern. And then from Bern, it's about almost a 2-hour ride to Geneva. So really quick, this is what the train looks like right now. It's empty. They're gonna probably fill it up the more people start getting on. Almost every seat, if you look really close, I'm gonna flip the camera so you guys can see, almost every seat's got a plug-in outlet. And then make sure when you're coming to Switzerland, your prone that you're looking for, that you should be looking for, this is what it should look like. It should have 3 prones instead of 2. Some of the European adapters, they're gonna only show you 2 prones. And some of them will work. The tea kettle in Zurich that I used in my hotel room had a 2 prone, but for the most part, if you're gonna plug in your electronic devices, make sure it looks something like this, where it's got 3 prones on it. Most of the outlets here in Switzerland, the 3 prone one, they're gonna be facing like this, downward. Most trains coming from Grindelwald to Interlaken House, they're going to have your table that can be unfolded if you're somebody that's going to be eating on board. I just got off in Bern. I changed my platform. Sometimes they do that here at the train station. I got to go to platform 1. Guys, I finally got on my train, the last leg from Bern to Geneva. It's going to be exactly 1 hour and 54-minute trip. It's going to make about 3 or 4 stops along the way. A couple of things I just want to share while it's still fresh on my mind here as we're on the train. They are very helpful both in person and on the screens. They will display if they're going to change the platforms on you, because originally on this trip it was supposed to be platform 3. So 2 things: if you download the SSB app, before you even start your journey, screenshot it to kind of get an idea of the times. And then the second thing is, once you figure out where you're going to go, on your phone, whether it's Android or Apple phone, set up your timer so that way you know if you gotta, say, read or do any kind of work, make sure you set up a time for yourself. That way you're not too distracted, so that way your phone can actually let you know that, okay, there's like 5 minutes before we stop and I gotta get off and change platforms or change stations, to make sure that you stay alert, to make sure you don't miss your stop. The good thing is, some of the train routes, they are going to tell you, they're going to make a public announcement saying that some of the trains platforms, they're going to ask everybody to get off because certain routes only go certain ways, and so that also helps. And then on the screens as you go through platforms, like I said, my platform was supposed to be 3 to switch to go to Geneva. We actually arrived from Interlaken Aust to Bern on platform 3, so they changed it on us. So periodically check your mobile device as well. By the way, if you see that, that's my battery port charger. I'm currently plugging it in right now and charging it. Overall, just keep in mind as you're traveling by train here in Switzerland, it's not complicated, it's not confusing. The times are pretty accurate here. So for instance, we were supposed to leave at 14:02 departure. We left exactly at 14:02, maybe a minute later, but they're very precise on their time. As we get closer to Geneva, I have currently set up timer to be exactly an hour and 54 minutes till we arrive. So that also helps, because on this particular route, if you stay on this past Geneva, it's going to take you to Geneva airport. The one thing you also want to keep in mind as you're traveling by train, whether you choose to do a multi-day pass or if you choose to buy your ticket individually, look at your ticket, because in some cases, especially if you're coming from another country and you're not a Swiss person, unless you download and register your mobile app, a person's going to come by and check your ticket and scan it. Be cautious of that. In my case, I bought an 8-day pass, so on my ticket it's going to say that I'm required to present them with the passport every time. So make sure as you buy your pass, you read the fine print, because if you do not present your pass and your passport, let's say you left it at your hotel, there's a fine each time that you are on board, because that's part of their policy. You must show them your passport ID. Guys, as I said, all of their trains are pretty precise. Right now behind me you see this train that I just rode on. I'm here in downtown Geneva. This train does continue going to Geneva airport. I don't really need to go there. I guess I can disclose to you guys now. So originally when I was booking to stay in Geneva for a couple of days to explore it, to walk through downtown, just kind of similar thing to what I did in Zurich. I did a little bit of fluke because I booked accommodations with hotels.com. I think this is something that they should display a little bit larger. Ultimately, this is all on me. But I do think that because their address was small, when you go put in the search engine compared to booking.com, like that's why I prefer booking.com most of the time. This is my first time using hotels.com, and they're headquartered in downtown Dallas off of 635. Put in the search engine Geneva, and then you can categorize what like your budget is and everything. Well, I think their algorithm does everything mostly by budget. But when you first select Geneva and you click search, it will give you the most expensive. I will give you that right now. In Geneva, same with Zurich. I think that's what hotels.com does. That's probably part of their algorithm. So again, just be careful with hotels.com when you're booking your accommodations abroad. Make sure you pay attention to the small print that says the address, because sometimes what they will do is they won't actually disclose the city of where you're going to be staying until the last minute. Because I made sure, like, this is not something that I'm not going to blame them, but this is not something that I can take credit for where I'm, clueless about a different country or city. But I do know for a fact that when I booked it, I even put down as Geneva is where I want to stay. Based on my accommodations price range, it selected Geneva, and then I noticed it kept saying 1.3 miles, 2.3 miles, 3.5 miles, 3.5 miles. And at the end, sorry, I gotta show you this. This little pigeon decided to say hi to me. Long story short, originally they had me booked to stay in France. So I had to look up a couple of days ago while I was in Grindelwald. I had to look up really quick, okay, is this going to be an issue for me, or do I need to cancel and try to stay in Grindelwald? And I'll tell you this, I really fell in love with Grindelwald. It was my place. It was very quiet, peaceful. It's exactly like my childhood was, very peaceful. After I looked that I'm going to be staying in France, I had a red flag going off in my head. I looked to see online, I had to Google it to see if you're a US passport holder, do you need a visa to enter into France? If you're traveling to France, as long as you're under 90-day limit, you don't have to have a visa to enter the country. Switzerland is the same thing. When I was looking at Switzerland to travel here, it's the same thing. You do not need a visa as long as you're staying here under 90 days. Now, every year might change depending on when you're watching this. I'm filming this right now as of 9th of April, 2024. I'm inside Geneva train station terminal. And there's another Starbucks upstairs. Guys, I just got to my hotel. It's called the Park City here in Gillard, France. I think I'm pronouncing it right. And then there's my taxi. I was gonna try to walk over, but it ended up costing me about 41.40 Swiss francs total. It's less than 10 kilometers drive. I think it was about 5 kilometers, maybe 6 at the most. But anyway, he saved me time by just taking me here. He was really, really helpful. Like, this is very refreshing to deal with an international taxi driver that here in Geneva. He told me that you don't really need to take a taxi next time. Next time you just take a tram number 12. Amtrak goes right next to my hotel that I'm going to be staying at. From the border of Switzerland to France, it was literally 2 kilometers. And if you keep going that way for another 2 kilometers, you're going to hit the border of Switzerland. And they've got a Carandache statue, because I think if I understood my taxi driver correct, that's where they make, in English it's called crayons and like colored pencils. In countries like Switzerland, Russia, and France, it's called Carandache, or in Russian it's Karandashi. This is my hotel. It's called the Park City. So here's the reason I've been trying to figure out, why in the world can I not get into downtown Geneva? Because I was really trying to get a hotel booked in downtown Geneva so I didn't have to walk as far. And it turns out, again, my taxi driver was very helpful, very informative. He told me this week, and every year in April, this time of year, they do a watch big conference / convention. So all the hotels, they are booked up, and they've been booked up for several months. So when I tried to book this hotel 2 months ago, that's the reason they placed me to France, is the closest to Geneva. Well, now for the future, I know that if I want to stay in Geneva downtown, I might have to book towards middle of April instead. I just arrived at my hotel room here. I'm on the 6th floor, just took the elevator. Let me flip the camera, let's go check out my room. So far, my impressions of this room, I think one is the window. Obviously, I get the beautiful mountains in the background. It does have a little bit of a smell because it is more of an apartment. Gives you an option to cook if you wanted to. So whoever cooked it in here, I don't know what they cooked, but it does have a smell to it, which is not something that I'm used to going to a hotel. But, you know, it's a minor thing. It's not the end of the world. I mean, considering that I'm only 2 kilometers away from walking distance from Geneva, it's just totally worth it. Other thing I'm going to show you too real quick is the restrooms. The restrooms are kind of like here in France, at least, and I only say France because I'm on the border of France. It reminds me a little bit of what the way Russia sets up a lot of their washing rooms, like their tubs, their sink, in their toilet, they're usually separated by two separate rooms. So this is going to be the washroom slash tub and the sink. And this will be the toilet. And I just realized something else. The joys of traveling and being outside your comfort zone and not knowing everything. So since I'm staying in France, I just realized this. Even though I have a battery bank, it's not fully charged. I'm gonna have to charge my phone in Switzerland, on the border of Switzerland, before I could cross back into France, because I don't think I'm gonna have an outlet for the outlets that the country of France uses. I'm gonna double check because I brought multiple adapters with me. So hopefully one of them will have it, because I thought I had one for Switzerland. Turns out I didn't. So at Hotel St. George's, I had to buy one from the receptionist for about 5 Swiss francs. So we'll see. Maybe, hopefully they'll have one here, or hopefully I actually have one in my suitcase, because if not, I'm gonna have to be creative and only charge my devices in Switzerland and then cross back. This is what French Outlook looks like. It's very similar to Swiss, except it has this metal piece, which in Switzerland, if you pull that out, it would work, but I don't think it's gonna work since they have the metal pieces here. You know, part of the traveling is you're gonna have to be flexible. My dad always used to say when we used to go to Russia is always be flexible. And I can understand why, because you have two choices. I mean, you could either frustrate yourself and, you know, lose sleep over it, or in this case, just take it easy and smile and laugh about it. But the other thing I'm mentioning, the reason I'm pulling this footage together is I totally forgot that because I'm gonna be in France, my SIM card that I bought for 2 weeks through Leica Mobile is only good in Switzerland. It's not good in France. But since I'm only 2 kilometers away from Geneva, I'm not going to bother getting another SIM card for France, because that's just too tedious. I'm only here for 3 days, and you know I'm going to be spending most time in Geneva, so there's no reason for me to get a SIM card just for 3 days. My new general rule is, I should say, if I'm going to be staying in a country for more than 5 days, then I'll get another SIM card. But I'm only here for 3 days, and technically today's already gone, so I'm only here for 2 more days. Tomorrow and the next day, really just 3 nights. There's no reason for me to get a SIM card. Went to the local grocery store here in France just to try some of the foods here. Decided to just get some hot tea. So I'll be making some hot tea royal breakfast. Biscuits, 2 frozen meals, I guess, or the microwavable meals, and then chips. Oh, and then some kind of dessert right now.